Big day here at E-MTB Review because I'm going to be comparing 5, maybe 6 of the best 4-piston brakes in the market. So what are the brakes we're going to be talking about? So first and foremost, we are going to talk about the MAGURA MT7, maybe the MT5, very significant brake. And then the Shimano XT. Shimano XT is the representative for the line. They have XTR 4-piston and also Dior 4-piston, but the XT is a good middle ground. We also have the new kid on the block, the TRP DHR Evo. Really an incredible brake. We also have the Hayes Dominion A4. It's the Hope Tech V4, the latest 4-piston brake that they have. How can you ignore the SRAM code, the one that's in the transmission with a new brake lever? Okay, how am I going to compare these brakes? We're going to talk about power, and when we talk about power, we're going to talk about sheer raw power. We're also going to talk about modulation, and we're going to talk about consistency. All right, another factor is the installation. The installation and the maintenance, and the middle ground of that is the bleed. How is that bleed? 3 more factors that we're going to compare is the noise. When you install it, how noisy is it? Do the brakes drag? Or when you're not using it, or when you slam it, do they just squeal like crazy? So noise is an important factor. And then another one is rotor compatibility. How thick are the rotors? How big do the rotors come? Before we were all using 180s, 160. Oh, now I'm using 180. I'm a pretty aggressive guy. Now it's all 200, and we are talking about 220. 220 in the front is really a good tool for these big 4-piston brakes.
First brake in the lineup is the MAGURA HT7 with the adjustable HC3 lever. This brake is characterized by tons of power because it has a forged one-piece caliper with a bridge in the middle for stiffness. And there are 4 separate brake pads, one for each piston. The feel is a moderate bite point, not too stiff, and very good modulation, good lever travel. It's a little bit harder to bleed with torque spec and getting all the bubbles out, but once you have this thing dialed, it is quite amazing with its mineral oil and thicker 2mm rotors. Second brake on the lineup is the TRP DHR Evo. It's a new kid on the lineup on the high end of all mountain and downhill performance. This thing is beefy, chunky, with a big lever with nice reach adjust, and it has brake pads that are compatible with Shimano 4-piston brake pads. It uses mineral oil, and the standout is it uses 2.3mm rotors for better heat dissipation and less warping. The brake feel is similar to Shimano with that initial hit, but there seems to be a lot more lever travel for easier modulation. Next brake in the lineup is the Shimano XT 4-piston, and it's characterized by a firm feel on the initial bite and a whole lot of power, and then not a lot of lever travel for modulation. It is quiet, it's consistent with its mineral oil, and the rotors are very high quality, and it's got brake pads with fins in it for cooling. Next brake in the line is the Hayes Dominion A4, introduced about 4 years ago quietly, and it's really won the hearts of many because of its performance and reliability. It has reach adjust and pad contact, or what they call dead stroke adjustment, and it is characterized by the minimal pull effort required to get the maximum braking performance. The bite point is consistent. It's got some really cool tools like easy centering of the caliper and 2 bleed ports in the caliper itself. Next brake in the lineup is the Hope Tech 4 V4, and it is easily the most attractive in the bunch with anodized colors and machine construction. The adjustability is up there with knobs that are easy to access for reach adjust and contact point adjust. Comes with 3 different brake pads for your conditions using its .5 fluid, and very configurable, and the power is there and the modulation is also there. And finally, we have the brand new SRAM Code Stealth available in different price points. This uses the same code caliper and introduces a brand new lever with better machining, better cabling management, and it still has that contact point adjust and the reach adjust that are easy to use. And this brake is characterized by good power and a lot of modulation that's very easy to use. They also introduce a new brake rotor that is a little bit thicker at 2 millimeters for better performance. And now for the hard part, how do we rate these brakes and compare them to each other when so much of brake choice is based on personal preference? What we're going to try to do is we're going to break it down into attributes like power and bleed and modulation and try and force rank them to each other. And this is based on my opinion and many who contributed in the brake forum of MTBR. So if you have something to add or if you disagree, please chime in the comments below. The first is the price and the weight, so the quantitative stuff. These are all around 250 to 300 bucks. The most expensive is perhaps the Hope Tech 4v4 and the MAGURA MT7 HC3. Also, that new SRAM code Stealth Ultimate is expensive as well, right around 300. Bear in mind, if there's cheaper models of these brakes, definitely go for them because the performance is about the same. What you lose is a little bit of adjustability and a little added weight. In enduro bikes and in e-bikes, that hardly matters. So in terms of weight, the lowest weight is the MAGURA MT7, about 255 grams, and a lot of them are in the 300 gram range. So with that out of the way, let's talk about power, modulation, and consistency. Which ones are the most powerful, easiest to modulate, and still feel about the same at the bottom of a 2,000 foot descent? Number one here is the MAGURA MT7 HC3. This really is a powerful brake based on that caliper that is forged and has a bridge in the middle, many brake pads. Really a delight when it's tuned properly. One can modulate it as well, and it doesn't seem to fade at the bottom of the hill. Bear in mind, it's a difficult bleed, so when it's imperfect, it's a little harder, but definitely great performance. In fact, most people use 200 millimeter rotors on their e-bikes. When they switch to 220, then they really feel the full impact of this brake. Second place would be the Hayes Dominion A4. Very good brakes, very powerful and very light action, so easy on the hands, less hand pump. And I would say third place, the Hope Tech V4 and the TRP, the HR Evo, are very powerful as well, easy to modulate. The TRP DHR Evo gets high marks for really just consistency. You know, with 220 rotors, it feels so good at the bottom of a 4,000 foot descent. Good heat dissipation, less warping. Shimano XT, good power, very hard hit, very consistent. Same as SRAM Code Stealth, good power, but we are in a new kind of generation of brakes that are so powerful. All right, the next category is lever ergonomics, lever feel, lever adjustability. And we have two standouts here, the Hayes Dominion A4 and the MAGURA MT7 HC3. The Hayes Dominion A4 has reach adjust and dead stroke or contact point adjustment that are very easy to use. Very nice lever shape and size, and it seems to work very well. Reversible as well, so you could do moto style with this brake. The MAGURA MT7, it was a good brake, but with the HC3 got even better. Now, mind you, this is a small lever, a one-finger lever, but it has a good reach adjust and also leverage adjustment. Leverage is cool because you can increase the power of this even more, either leveraged or linear. And then it's adjustable, it's reversible as well, so you could do it moto style. So very compact little lever, and MAGURA has a lot of lever options. The Hope Tech V4 has good adjustability. The lever is a little bit long for some taste, for some modern tastes, but it works pretty well. The HR Evo only has lever reach adjustment. The lever is a little long, so some people need some time to get used to it, but it is very good. Next category is the ease of installation and maintenance and ease of bleeding. How easy are these brakes to live with year after year? And the SRAM code Stealth that gets high marks for its new bleed process. It's fairly easy to use. The TRP DHR Evo is good as well, easy to bleed. In fact, the cables come disconnected when you buy it. It's you just plug it in and play. The Haze Dominion as well is good. It has two cool features. When you have a difficult bleed, it has two bleed ports on the caliper. It also has grub screws to set the position of the caliper when you need to take it out and whatnot. The Magura MT7 is a little bit harder to bleed just because it's so different, and some shops have difficulty doing it. First time's always hard on the Magura to get all those bubbles out. HopeTech V4 is okay, but you need all those expensive Hope tools. Now Shimano, I'm leaving out, it's not last place. It's definitely easy to bleed, and where it really stands out is it just day in day out, it just works consistently. If the temperature is not below freezing, it's just, you know, you leave it 6 months later, it still feels the same. Just an impressive brake, the Shimano. Finally, we'll talk about little details that we might have missed and other standouts where these brakes differentiate from each other. In terms of looks, the HopeTech 4B4 is definitely a looker with its machining and anodized colors, from the lever to the caliper to the rotor even. Really stunning looking brake. The Magura gets some marks too for being an attractive brake with its carbon look and these bands that are different colors to match your bike. And TRP, the HR Evo, when they came out with that bronze color, oh man, what a looker on this one. The new SRAM Stealth transmission is quite good looking as well. Talking about noise, rattle, and squeal, the Haze Dominion A4 is very quiet out of the box. So is the TRP DHR Evo and the HopeTech V4. The Shimano is actually a really quiet brake, except for these fin pads. The fin pads we think is more of hype. No other manufacturer uses fin pads, so I don't think there's an advantage to it, but they do rattle since they have a lot of inertia. The Magura MT7, it's very hard to get good pad clearance from the rotor, so a lot of times they rub and they do squeal. And the SRAM code, you know, the metallic pads that they use are just noisy little things. In terms of high power, high heat dissipation rotors for e-bikes and enduro bikes, the TRP DHR Evo takes high marks for having a 2.3 millimeter very thick rotor in 220 millimeter size. So very heavy at 270 grams, but you know, in some applications that doesn't matter. What matters is power. Now companies like SRAM and Magura are using 2.0 millimeter rotors, so a little better. And some of these companies like Shimano, they don't have the 220 rotor available in good spec levels, like XT. So there you have it. We'll end it here, even though I know we've left out a lot of information and details for later videos, but hopefully you've learned something from this roundup, and it's opened up conversation and opened up your minds into the possibilities of brake upgrades.